Aye. Sir. Where is 180 on my list? Between those two, which means its square root is between those two. How far did I go here? 11. How far could I have gone? 26, 27, right? 169 to 196 is 27, yeah? So I went 11 steps out of a possible 27, correct? Which is what? Is it about a half? What's half of 27? 13.5. It's a little less than half, right? So what's our guess? Siraj? 13.4. That's a pretty good guess. And then, of course, just to prove our point, we check. Well, we wouldn't check because we know we did it right. Hola. Right? Okay. 300. That is between 289 and 324, right? So, which means it's between 17 and 18. How many did I take? I did 11 out of a total of 35. Pretty darn close to what? 11 over 33, which is 1/3. So 17.3. Yeah? Yeah. Anything different down here? No, it's just a bigger stretch, right? We're not using the same list. 45 is 27, which is 3, and 64, which is 4. How far and how far? $18 out of 37. Pretty darn close to 18 out of 36, isn't it? 3.5. 27 to 34, or to 64 is 37 steps, isn't it? Okay. 405. 405. 343, right? Which is 7. And 512, which is 8. What's that? 62? 57? Okay, we're estimating. 50. How far is that? It's not quite 200, is it? Right? We're estimating. 200 would be 540. We're 30 less than that. So 50 out of 170, because we're estimating. More or less than 1/3. Slightly less. So 7 point what? 1/3. Huh? 7.2? Good enough for an estimate? Darn tootin'. And 176? 125? 216? 5, 6? What's that? About 50. What's that? About 90. 5/9, slightly more or less than half. Slightly more. 2 point what? Or sorry, 5.6. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, yeah? Why are we doing it? Sense, number sense is important. So when you give me a big long answer, it has the possibility of making sense. Mantosh. I can. All right, now we're not doing anything new today because it's a short day. It's only an hour long. I'm going to give you the next 2 pages. It's going to be work time, okay? But I want to explain that work time to you. Go on to this page. All you are doing on this page is seeing if you can tell me if the thing is rational or irrational. If it is rational, I want you to try to give me the answer. If it is irrational, I want you to give me a good estimate. Okay? Now, I'm going to do the first 3 with you, then I'm going to let you go. But I'm not going to do that quite that way because I want to get on words. On the next page, you are going to do, again, root or rational. Root or irrational. Now, what's weird on this next page? Big numbers. But you're going to bring your own knowledge to the party and we're going to talk about it. We'll do the first 3 there too. Then I'm going to shut up. Rational or irrational? Nope. It is rational because this is 14, isn't it? Because it's right on our list. There's a negative in front. Done. Is that on our list? No. So that is irrational, which means I want an estimate. What's it really close to? 25. And what's the square root of 25? 5. Is this going to be slightly bigger or slightly smaller than 25? 5.1. Perfectly acceptable, yeah? Now, being the intelligent young people that you are, that symbol is covering both of these. What does that mean? It's the square root of both of them. Do we know the square root of 9? What is it? 3. Do we know the square root of 100? 10. That's what you're going to do. Got it? For this page. Second page. Cube root of 576. That's on our list, yeah? But it's not on our list, so what is it? Irrational, so I want an estimate. You can do that one. You already know how. What's weird about this guy? He's way beyond our list, isn't he? Right? Way beyond our list. So, you got to have a look at that. What can you do you think, to have a guess without using a calculator, if that's rational with a root or irrational? If you feel that it's irrational, risk it. Right? Irrational. Everybody cool? Now what about this one? I'm going to give you a... What? Okay, I'm going to give you a hint here. Why is this a scary number? Why is this question scary? Avner. Because it's big. 27,000 is big. If I told you I was giving you $27,000, you'd be like, yeah, you are. Right? Yeah. But isn't that 27 and 1,000? Doesn't 27 have a cube root? What is it? 3. Doesn't 1,000 have a cube root? What is it? 10. So if that times that is that, what do you think I do with the roots? Multiply them to get what? 30. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, should give you a big hint to trying all of these. What did I do right there? I separated into, what do we call 2 things that we multiply together? Factors. Now, why did I choose 27 and 1,000? Because they had cubes. Right? Everybody cool? So, does that give you an idea of something you could do there? Sure it does. Everybody good? You try these 2 pages. Now, Let's say you say something is irrational, but it is rational, because I'm not letting you use a calculator. Is that anything to be concerned about? No, of course not, because I haven't actually taught you what we're doing. I want to see what you, the best and brightest, can bring to this party before I teach you how to actually do it. Because maybe it will make my life significantly easier tomorrow when we move on. Aight? Go. I'm only going to Shirley. Okay. Screen on. So, is that one rational or irrational? That is irrational because 48 doesn't have a square root. But what would your guess be? 225 over 49, which would be 15 over 7, which would be slightly greater than 2. Slightly greater than 2. What do decimals make me want to do? Blech. This is, of course, 1/4. The square root of 1/4 is, of course, 1/2. What is the square root of 1? What is the square root of 25? 42. Yeah, exactly. I think it's pi, Mr. Myers. 0. Is 45 a perfect square? So what's our guess? It is irrational, but it's very close to what? Very close to 7, but slightly less than 7. What about this one? Slightly less than negative, slightly less than 7. So, is it negative 6.8 or negative 7.2?
Negative 6.8.
This is tricky. Which is it? She's all hopped up on ramen, is she?
Yeah.
Woo-wee! Yes, it is tricky. Ladies and gentlemen, it is tricky because it is negative, but then slightly less than 7. Bye.
Okay.
Right? So it is not negative 7.2. It must be negative the same as this. Okay? This is, of course, 11. This one, a bunch of you, I bet, wrote irrational because 5 and 20 are both irrational. But, of course, that is 1/4, isn't it? Yes. So what is the real answer? 1/2. Because the square root of that is 1/2. And this, of course, is irrational. What's our guess? Slightly less than 3. Yes? Yes. Turn the page over. We've already done the first 3. Although not quite. Did anybody get this one without using their calculator? What is it when you use your calculator? Nobody cheated?
No. Okay, can I guess?
Sure.
13, 14, 15.
Okay. No. Stop. This is a perfect example of what I was... No, I'm looking at the other kids that just did what you two just did. Because all those other kids are doing things perfectly normal, like what you two just did. Now, this is an example of what I was talking about earlier. My good friend Jewel just guessed this to be the square root of this to be 13. Now, Jewel, 13 squared, you already know is only 169. That is 1,728. Now, let's stop for a second. We are intelligent young people, yes? So 169 has a square root of 13. Agreed? Now, if I multiplied that by 10, I would have 1690, wouldn't I? Which is pretty close to this. The square root of 10 is pretty close to 3, right? So a good guess here might be 13 times 3, approximately 39. And it is exactly 41? No, right? It's irrational. So this is what makes it a good guess. Cool? Okay. Now this one. Somebody cheated. I know. Was your guess for this rational or irrational? Well, you see that it's a cube root, so we could look on our cube root list, yes?
Yes.
Right? And that's 3,375. Agreed? Do you see a cube root here that might work with 3,375? What does 3,375 end in?
75.
5 or 75, right? What do you see right there? 25. Does 25 not work very well with 75? So maybe we could break this up into 125 and something else, right? Well, 125, how many 125s fit into 337? Two, right? And that will leave us with 87, right? As a remainder. So now, instead of 5, I got 875. How many 125s will fit into 875? 7, right? Now, we now know that this is the same as this. What is the cube root of 25? What is the cube root of 27? 3. What is 5 times 3? 15. And I know somebody punched that into their calculator. If 12 cubed is 3,375? We're on D. Riley May. You did G. G is 12. It's cool. It's cool. Everybody understand? Do you see what we were doing? We were breaking it down to numbers with which we can work. Because these big numbers are beyond our scope of easy understanding. Yes? Our calculators have given us a false sense of security. So let us look at this one. This is a square root situation. Yes?
Yes.
2 zeros means what? 100. So this is 729 times 100. Does 729 have a square root? Or is that a cube root? Does 729 have a square root? Well, our square root list only goes up to 400, yeah?
Yeah.
So this is irrational. If this is irrational, then does it matter that this has a square root of 10? No, so this is an irrational one. What would our guess be? Go ahead. 200 and exactly? Okay, we'll get to it. Our guess here is irrational, yes? Right? Because this has no square root. That would be our guess. Now, Sarav tells us that this answer is 270. So, 270 square, I know, right? So, how did you get that exactly without using your calculator? You used a factor tree. So that, ladies and gentlemen, if you are aware of what is going on, because you learned it in the 9th grade, that's where we're going with this next. He already knew it, so he's able to carry on. This, I see a square root here, yes? So there's 100, agreed? 2 zeros. So I know 100's under there. There's another 100. There's another 100 under there. And what's left? 10. Does that have a square root? Does 100 have a square root? Does that 100 have a square root? Does 10 have a square root? Does 10 have a square root? No, so this is irrational. What's our guess? This is approximately 3. This is 10, this is 10. So what's our guess? Approximately 300. Oops, 300. Is everybody with me? All right. This one, Riley May has told us it is 12. How did you find that? Perfectly fine. So she said 17 and 28. And then... Okay. It's cool. It's cool. The answer is 12. We could come to a guess. I bet this line, well, actually, G and H, most kids for G and H say irrational because I don't let them use their calculator. They mostly say irrational. They're not, but mostly kids say irrational. No, because this isn't a test. There's no wrong answer here. What about 1,000? Does it have a cube root? It's right on our list. What is it? 10. What about this? Does 196 have a square root? What is it? Does 225? 15. Done. What about this? That's irrational, but it's close to what? What is 125 close to? 11. So this is going to be 11 plus a bit, right? 11 plus. Everybody cool? And last one, cube root of 64. That's right on our list. What is it? 4. We're not good because we're not done. What's wrong with this? Who hates decimals? I hate decimals. Isn't this 125 over 1,000? And what's the cubed root of 125? Right on our list. 5. What's the cube root of 1,000? Right on our list. 10. What's the 3 ways I could write this? 0.5, 1/2, or 5/10. What's the one I want? Which of those 3? 1/2. What about this one? 5/3. Nice. What about this one? Irrational. What's our guess? Right. 5 minus, because it's not, doesn't get to 125. So it's got to be a little less than 5. Is everybody good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, if you, I don't care about page 37. Screw it. If you did not get all of those the same as your peers, that is nothing to worry about because some of you have not actually been taught how to deal with irrational square and cube roots. Some of you have, but that's okay because I am here to patch up all the holes in your math knowledge before we head forward. All right? All right. Now, tomorrow we are going to quiz up the scene. That quiz is going to have exponents on it. Some of those exponents will be crazy to look at, but will they actually be difficult? No, because there's only a maximum of 7 things you could do with any one question, right? Excellent. There will also be LCM and GCF on there. Remember how I told you that I don't put a lot of stock in actually being able to do LCM and GCF. Because what's the important part of LCM and GCF? Factors. Being able to move numbers around is the skill that you need to bring to this party. All right? You have to get out of that mindset that is often attached to earlier math, which is I need the right answer, and move into a new mindset of how do I get to the right answer. All right? I care much more about expanding your mathematical toolbox, for lack of a better analogy. All right? I want you to bring more to the math party than add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Is the long and the short of it. Cool? But of course, add, subtract, multiply, and divide are the basic tools of all math, yes? They are the hammer, screwdriver, handsaw. Damn it, I need one more tool that's easy to work with. No, that's the whole point. Wrench, thank you. No. All of you should be happy Jewel is sat at the front. She will absorb a lot of from me that won't get to the back. All right. So, everyone is good, yes? Everyone is ready to be quizzed tomorrow? Yeah? Yes. Yes. Because, Jewel, I could give you this. And say no calculator, and if I wrote test at the top, half of you would not get 100% on that. And then you would blame the fact that I just get so anxious when there's tests. 20 years I've been teaching. I've heard the excuse enough. Then I could give the very next day the exact same 3 questions and erase that word, and the kid that couldn't write the test all of a sudden is kicking its rear. Because anxiety is not rational. It's like being scared of the dark or scared of a closet. No one's going to get you in a closet, but people have claustrophobia, right? My son is a svexophobe, which all of you think sounds naughty, but it just means fear of wasps. And he has been stung. He knows they won't hurt him. A honeybee could land right here and he'd be like, "Gah." But if a wasp landed on his nose, he would literally take the closest knife he has and cut his nose clean off to avoid that wasp. I have seen my son jump off of a cliff to avoid a wasp. Now, the cliff was over water, but he was on a lower cliff, and there were people above him, and a kid jumped just before him, and my son jumped out, and they hit in midair, because he is so messed up about wasps that he cannot deal with them. He is that irrational. Even though he has been stung and knows it will not hurt, he literally runs away. When he was 4, we were having a picnic. He had a big plate of KFC. A wasp flew by him, just like on cartoons. He threw the plate in the air and ran away. KFC and potato salad and fries rained down upon the ground, and my son was in Abbotsford by the time they hit the ground, and we were picnicking in Chilliwack. Now, my son is fearless. He will jump off things. Nothing else scares him. He will go on every amusement ride. He will surf. He will bungee jump. He will do everything that you ask him to do unless there's a wasp. And it doesn't take a lot of wasps. It takes one. Because he's not rational. Because he is a svexophobe. I just like saying the word. I don't actually even know how it is spelled. I've never even researched it. My son informed me that he was a svexophobe. Recently, we found out that fear of clowns is coolophobia. I know, weird, hey? Because everybody says they're scared of clowns because apparently everybody, there's been a rash of clown murders. Now, Pennywise notwithstanding, I read the actual book. It was scary. Pennywise in the movie, not scary.